My name's Daniel Moore. I'm 34 years old. I live in Leeds, England, in a one-bedroom apartment above a bakery that shut down years ago. The sign is still there, cracked, faded. No one ever bothered to take it down. Every morning when I leave the building, I see it and think about how long something can stay in place even after it stops working. I've lived here for almost 6 years, not because I like it, but because it was close to my job and cheap enough to justify staying, quiet enough to disappear in. Disappearing used to feel like a skill. I grew up in a normal household. 2 parents, no shouting, no big dreams either. My father worked in the same company for almost 3 decades. My mother stayed practical about everything. They believed stability was the highest achievement. As long as you had a job and paid your bills on time, you were doing well. I never questioned that idea. I absorbed it. At school, teachers described me as reliable. Not talented, not difficult, just reliable. I learned early that attention came with risk, so I stayed useful but unnoticed. That habit followed me into adulthood. After college, I didn't aim high. I applied for jobs that felt safe, administrative roles, office work. Eventually, I was hired as an operations assistant at a logistics company. Gray building, fluorescent lights, predictable tasks. I liked knowing what each day would look like before it started. My job was simple: tracking shipments, updating spreadsheets, responding to emails, fixing small errors before anyone else noticed them. I was good at that kind of work. It rewarded caution and repetition. I arrived early. I stayed late when needed. I didn't ask for much. I thought that mattered. Replaceable, though I didn't see that yet. The moment I should have understood came when my manager asked me to train a new hire. His name was Oliver, early 20s, sharp, curious. He asked why things were done a certain way. I showed him everything I knew: shortcuts, workflows, the small fixes I'd learned over the years. I wanted to be helpful. I wanted to be needed. What I didn't realize was that value without visibility is invisible. When the restructuring finally happened, it was quick. A calendar invite, a small meeting room, HR sitting 2 straight, my manager avoiding eye contact. They told me my role had been made redundant. They said it wasn't personal. They thanked me for my contribution. They offered 2 weeks' pay and wished me luck. I nodded. I shook hands. I walked out carrying a cardboard box that felt too light for 10 years of work. I walked home instead of taking the bus. I needed the time. The city looked exactly the same. People rushed past me. Shops were open. Nothing reflected what had just happened. The first week after losing my job felt unreal. I still woke up early, still made coffee, still checked the time at 5 as if I needed to leave. I told myself this was temporary. I had experience. I had references. I sent applications, dozens of them, then more. Interviews came, polite and distant. We're looking for someone more flexible. We need a different skill set. Sometimes there was no response at all. Savings disappeared faster than I expected. Rent didn't care about effort. Bills didn't care about experience. I stopped buying small comforts first, then necessary things. I calculated groceries in my head. I stopped turning on the heating unless it was unbearable. Days lost structure. Without work, time stretched in uncomfortable ways. Mornings felt heavy, afternoons blurred. I avoided people because I didn't want to explain myself. Every conversation felt like a reminder that I was falling behind. The worst part wasn't the money. It was the erosion of identity. Without a job, I didn't know how to describe myself. I felt embarrassed without being accused of anything. I eventually took temporary warehouse work. Early mornings, long shifts, physical exhaustion. It felt like moving backward, but it kept me afloat. The work was simple, honest. When the shift ended, it was over. No pretending. One night, coming home late, I noticed a light in the bakery downstairs. I stopped without meaning to. Inside, a single bulb hung from the ceiling. An older man stood alone, scraping dried dough from a metal table. No customers, no display, just work. I watched longer than I should have. A week later, I knocked on his door. I didn't have a plan. I asked if he needed help cleaning in the evenings. He looked at me for a moment, said nothing, and handed me a broom. That became our routine. At first, I only cleaned floors, trays, old equipment no one wanted to fix. My hands cracked, my back hurt. But when I finished, something was different, clean, order restored, even briefly. Over time, he started explaining things without calling it teaching. Why dough failed in cold rooms, why timing mattered more than force, why you couldn't rush certain processes. I listened. Around that time, I ran into Oliver at a supermarket. He asked how I was doing. I told him the truth. Warehouse shifts, helping at a bakery. He paused, then said, "I thought you liked how things were." He didn't mean it cruelly. That made it worse. I realized then that I had confused comfort with choice. I hadn't liked my life. I had just known how to survive inside it. The bakery eventually reopened. Not successfully. Just enough. A few customers, enough to keep the lights on. I wasn't transformed. I wasn't a success story. I was still careful, still quiet. But now, when I worked, the result existed in front of me. I still live above the bakery. The sign is still cracked. But now when I see it, it doesn't feel abandoned. It feels unfinished.